Hello children, now we'll start the chapter 15, Improvement in Food Resources. In this chapter, we'll discuss about the crops, the various agricultural methods, how we can improve the quality and quantity of a crop, as well as the animal husbandry techniques which we are using. In the initial phases of chapter, we'll discuss about the agriculture and the agronomic practices. So, with starting the introduction of this chapter, bache, you must have been aware that all the living organisms require energy. Why require energy? To produce young ones, to perform their basic life processes like movement, growth and development, repairing. So these are various functions which a living organism must have to perform, like growth, development, movement, repair and healing. These functions require energy. Reproduction require energy. So for that energy, food is required. And the food we get through the agricultural practices. Basically, what we are eating is the products which we are growing in the crop fields. Sometimes you say that, no, I am eating a Maggi. But bache, Maggi's raw material is fine wheat flour, maida. Kahan se mila bache? Wheat se mila. So that is a crop. So directly or indirectly, we depend upon the crop plants for our feeding requirements, for our food, for our nutrients. The major nutrients which we get from the food are carbohydrates, that is sugars, bache. Glucose, fructose, starch, glycogen, all these are carbohydrates. Fats, fatty acids and glycerols. Proteins. After water, the major nutrient, major particle which constitutes a cell or a living organism is proteins. Rather than this, we require minerals like zinc, cobalt, iron, all these are minerals which we get through the various food items. These nutrients are required for the structure formation as well as the performance of various activities, because the major energy providing resources are, major energy providing nutrients are carbohydrates, and those carbohydrates, these substances we get from food. Today's agricultural practices includes immense use of various chemical products like chemical fertilizers. Nowadays also, bache, in the winter season, basically there is a paddy's harvesting is already done and wheat is about to sow in the fields. Wheat seeds are always sown along with the urea. Urea is a chemical fertilizer, bache. It's a carbon compound which is formed in the various industries. आपने पढ़ा भी होगा नीम लेपित यूरिया, neem coated urea, bache. Why? Bache, the urea which we are using nowadays is completely made up of chemicals. But now the government as well as the private agencies, the people, the farmers are diverting towards the neem lepit urea, neem coated urea, because it is a organic product. It does not harm the soil that much. So nowadays, bache, the requirement of agriculture is that agriculture must be a sustainable one. What do you mean by sustainable agriculture? It is the method, it is a technique in which the various agricultural practices are to be done by using the organic products like biofertilizers, biopesticides, bioweedicides, all those products which helps in the growth of crop plants, which helps in the protection of the crop plants, but not providing any harm to the natural resources like soil, water bodies, atmosphere, human beings. इन्हें कोई नुकसान नहीं पहुंचाता. तो बच्चे बायोलॉजिकल प्रोडक्ट्स यूज करके, बच्चे केमिकल प्रोडक्ट्स के यूज को मिनिमम करके जिस एग्रीकल्चर को सस्टेन किया जाएगा, जिस एग्रीकल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस को परफॉर्म किया जाएगा, दोज एग्रीकल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस आर रेफर्ड एज sustainable agricultural practices, or that form of agriculture is known as sustainable agriculture. Next we'll discuss bache agronomy. What is agronomy? Agronomy is the branch which deals with the crop plants, which deals with the rearing and management of the crop plants. उनका पालन पोषण करना, rear करना, उन्हें manage करना, उनका प्रबंधन करना, that is all to be done in this branch of biology, in this branch of science. And science has three branches: biology, physics and chemistry. In biology there is various further branches बच्चे. So one branch is agronomy, the branch of biology that deals with the rearing and management of crop plants is known as agronomy. Green revolution is to be done, is to be bring out for the production of various crop plants, to increase the yield of crop plants. We'll discuss about that green revolution in the later parts of this chapter. Then white revolution is related with the animal husbandry. The white revolution is to bring about the change in the milk production, to give quality and quantitative diet to the animals, to the cattle, and the milk production, the milk quality is to be increased exponentially. Although practically it is not happening, but still in papers we want that. एक्चुअल में ऐसा हो चाहे ना हो बच्चे, लेकिन हम पेपर्स में ऐसा चाहते हैं कि मिल्क जो हम पिए उसकी क्वालिटी और क्वांटिटी सुपीरियर हो. बट आस्क योर एल्डर्स, इन आवर कंट्री द मिल्क क्वालिटी इज कंटिन्यूअसली डिग्रेडिंग. Whether the companies or the advertisements are conveniently are saying, they are lauding themselves that we are producing that quality of milk, that. But ask your elders, bache, ask your grandparents, the quality of milk which was present at their time is degraded now. That we will discuss how it is degrading, beta. So that is what the revolution is all about in this agronomical field, in this agronomy, which brings about to increase the production, increase the quality as well as the quantity of the products. Then bache, we'll discuss types of crops. The first one is cereal crops. Cereal means basically danedar bache. The crops which majorly provide carbohydrates. These crops are carbohydrates rich crops. Example: wheat, rice, millet, maize, barley, बाजरा और मक्का बोलते हैं बच्चे इसे. These are cereal crops which are carbohydrate rich. The second ones are the oil seed crops. These provides fats rich crops. The example are sorghum seeds, mustard. These are oil seed crops. Groundnut, मूंगफली का तेल बच्चे, coconut, palm oil, etc. These are the crops which gives us oil, and oil contains fat items, fats. The third is pulses, dale, the granular crops which provide us proteins majorly. The protein rich crops, example: black gram, green gram, lentils, मसूर की दाल, green gram हरी मूंगी की दाल बोलते हैं इसे बच्चे, black gram उड़द बोलते हैं इसे. So these are the pulses. Pea, मटर, हरे मटर जो है, that is also a pulse crop which provides us protein. They are protein rich. Next, spices, मिर्ची वगैरह, मसाले मिर्ची. They only provide palatability. What do you mean by palatability? Taste. Example: green cardamom, black pepper. These are some crops which provide us spices. Rather than this, turmeric, that is also crop plant. So these are spices. Next, and the last is fodder crops. The crops which gives us the food for our cattle, food for our domestic animals. Example is barsim, dhanchua, it is a kind of crop. Okay. Guar. These are the crops which we use for the fodder to our domesticated animals, used for animal husbandry, used for cattle, so that we can use their products. So in this chapter we'll keep on continuing that how we'll keep on growing these crops in large yield, in large quantity, as well as in better quality. Next, we will discuss photo periods. It is composed of two words. Photo means light and period means the time period, the time required. What is a photo period, bache? It is the duration, it is the period of time required by the plant, required by the crop for its growth, for its production of various reproductive organs, production of its storage organs, leaf fall, etc. All those processes include or required a duration of time, and that is known as a photo periods. Some plants are short sunlight required photoperiodic plants, and some require a longer duration. So on these basis, the seasons majorly are divided into two forms. One is kharif crops, kharif season crops, and second one is the rabi season crops or rabi crops. Now we'll discuss the difference between them one by one on these following parameters. The first one is season. That which season is required for that particular crop. Kharif crops are monsoon season crops, or that is why they are also referred as rainy season crops. They require continuous rains, bache. So that's why the monsoon rains are there. They bring the monsoon, clouds rises from the coastal regions, southern areas of India, and then comes to the eastern and the northern parts to bring those monsoon rains. Rabi crops are non-monsoon season crops. They do not require that monsoon rains. The second one is conditions required. Kharif crops require hot and wet conditions. If you remember about the seasons, bache, monsoons comes usually in June or July, in the month of July to August, June to August, in between these 3 months. So these months are quite hot and wet. The humidity in those August month in the after mid of July is quite high. So these crops require hot and wet conditions, whereas the rabi crops require dry conditions and cold environment. That's why they usually grow in winter season, and kharif crops usually grows in summer season. Next, their sowing and harvesting. Sowing means their seeds are to be sown. Seeds को बोया जाएगा ताकि seeds grow कर नया plant बना सके. और harvesting means cutting, cultivation of those crops. उन्हें cut करना. Sowing, kharif crops, the summer season crops are sown in the month of April or May. You can write March to May, that is also correct. But usually it is from April to May. And they are harvested. These are cultivated. Is in October to November. बोई जाती है बच्चे अप्रैल से मई में और काटी जाती है October to November. Some of the even kharif crops are sown in the month of July, and that is like rice, that is paddy. So that sowing season may vary. Next, rabi crops. At the time of harvesting of kharif crops, the rabi crops are to be sown. जैसे खरीफ क्रॉप कटेंगी रबी क्रॉप सोन करती जाएंगी बच्चे. They usually sown in October or November, whereas they are harvested in the month of April. Baisakhi to May. Baisakhi मनाते हैं बच्चे नॉर्थ इंडियंस, स्पेशली द सिख communities. Why? Because the cultivation of wheat grains is done at that particular time. Next examples. The examples of the kharif crops is rice, maize, groundnut, चावल हो गया बच्चे, पैडी बोलते हैं, मेज मक्का, ग्राउंडनट मूंगफली, सोयाबीन, ग्रीन ग्राम, हरी मूंगी की दाल बोलते हैं बच्चे हम इसे, कॉटन, कपास, ब्लैक ग्राम, काले चने. So these are the crops which we grow in this rainy season. Whereas the example of the rabi crops is wheat, गेहूं, barley, बाजरा बच्चे, mustard, etc. So that is the difference between kharif and rabi crops. In the rabi crops you may include the pea, हरे मटर जो है बच्चे, linseed, अलसी बोलते हैं linseed को हिंदी में. So these are the crops which are usually grown in these kind of conditions and these kind of environments. So that is the difference between kharif and rabi crops.